Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, part 3 of our hardware roundup. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell.
Hey,
Mark,
Patrick, how's it going?
I'm all right, Mark. How are you?
And I'm doing all right. I at work we have like a communal candy station, and
what kind of? Hold on, station?
Yeah,
It's not like a bowl. It's
no, there's a significant amount of candy.
okay. All right.
And they have nerds again.
Uh-huh.
What is happening? We're
I don't
falling
know.
apart.
The wheels are
I
coming out the
interrupted you.
I interrupted you.
They had nerds again, so that's very exciting to me.
What kind of nerds, or does it even matter to you? You just love nerds.
I mean, I love nerds, but grape is not my
classic.
favorite.
Oh.
No, gross. Gross. Ooh. What do you ooh?
Well, what? They taste like the rest of the nerds.
Wow.
I mean, if you would like to educate me on what are the best nerds?
I mean, strawberry is the best like regular flavor. Usually you see either strawberry and grape in like the box, or you see like the neon green and neon red one. I don't even know what flavors those are. I mean, at that point it's not a flavor, right?
Right. It's just a color in candy.
Yeah, neon red and neon green is my favorite. But strawberry is close. I don't really care for the grape. I'll eat it if it comes in the duo box, but
I feel like any fake fruit flavored candy, that strawberry is always going to be the best flavor. Like, this is true for like the Skittles, like the light pink ones. Is it light pink? I'm thinking of Starburst.
Yeah, you're probably thinking Starburst, but there's a tropical mix Skittles.
Yes, that's true.
That has like pink in it and stuff.
Also, those sour Skittles are pretty good.
Oh, I love sour Skittles.
Weather report, it is nicer.
It's like 70 degrees today.
Yeah.
You can't complain.
You can't complain about the weather.
Yep, too true.
How about them politics? They're bad, right?
Yeah, things are not great.
Things are not great. We make a point to not really engage political conversation on this show, which I think is in the spirit of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Nintendo for crying out loud. But feeling pretty unsettled today.
I don't know. Now's a great time to donate to the ACLU.
Hey, I did. I set up a recurring donation.
Hey, me as well.
Hey, high fives on that. All right. So we can maybe talk about digging into it deeper later. But for right now, it's a slightly apolitical show. Yes?
Yeah.
Donate to the ACLU. Mark, what have you been playing this week?
Well, we're still playing Metroid Other M.
Oh, you bet we are. We are still playing, and you can still listen to us playing it or talking about it immediately after playing it. It's good. I'm very happy with how the show is turning out so far. Not this episode necessarily.
I know,
that show's
start over.
No, this is no. We are not starting over. This is the show. I'm having a great time. Are you having a great time?
Yeah, I'm feeling great.
Okay, good.
Super loose. I had 2 boxes of nerds on my way over, so I feel awesome.
Great. Have you been playing anything else?
No, haven't really had time this week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've been like itching to get back to Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I want to finish up Star Tropics.
Yeah. So that's we've stated our desires.
Those are good goals.
Yep, good goals. Mark, let's move into the news.
So we talked about last week how I want to go all digital on the Switch.
All digi.
Planning on getting a micro SD XC card.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that support for SDXC cards will only come after a system update.
Right. So we are hoping that system update is day one.
Yeah.
But we have no idea.
No.
Infrastructure on this thing is still largely a mystery.
Yeah.
Are you feeling confident Do you think it's going to be a day one thing?
I think so.
It seems like it has to be, right? Because it on board has what, 32? And Zelda's like a third of that size.
Yeah, I think Zelda's like 17.
Okay, so like half. So yeah, they got to have like a day one solution for that.
I mean, it'll already take SD cards. So so micro SD cards it'll take.
Okay.
SDXC is like a different standard, I believe. It's like USB 3.0.
Got it.
It's the same plug, it's the same card, it just has different like specifications.
Sure.
And so you can buy, I'm assuming it has like better read write capabilities or something like that.
Like it's faster or
right,
something. Okay.
Yeah. And so I could buy just a normal micro SD card. But so it won't be the end of the world. And I guess I could still buy, like Zelda,
you could still
and Switch
put Zelda
and everything.
on it, yeah.
But yeah, I'm assuming it'll be day one, but who knows?
Who knows? Nothing is guaranteed at this point.
Well, I mean, they also said that so the USBs are going to be USB 2.0 at launch, and then they said like USB 3.0 will be coming in an update or will be updated later. So I'm guessing it's also just a software solution to go from USB 2.0 to 3.0.
Oh, that's a good point. This thing's coming out too early, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like that, which is, I mean, maybe, no, but I'm just saying, like,
right, or like 4 years too late.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, maybe it's coming out too soon, but at the same time, they chose to do it March 3rd.
Yeah.
But again, maybe that's just purely for financial considerations, right? By the end of so they could do it by the end of the fiscal year. I don't know. It definitely seems like it's going to be coming in hot, no matter what they do.
Coming in way hot.
So PR manager for Nintendo of Germany was quoted as saying, this is the English translation, is that like said, quote, it is also interesting that only a single game module is required for local games. Up to 8 players can then participate in their consoles without each having to purchase their own version.
So speculation time. Download play.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And I'm guessing it'll be just like every other download play title, or how download play has worked on the 3DS, where it's not for every title, it's just select titles. It's probably just like select modes.
Right.
But it sounds like it's capable of doing download play, which makes total sense. There's no reason they wouldn't necessarily get rid of that.
It would be a bummer if you wanted to play Splatoon with 8 people and all 8 people needed a copy of the game.
I mean, my personal assumption is that games like Splatoon, Mario Kart, like all that kind of stuff will require a cart per person. To me, it seems like something just like download play does, or how like the 3DS versions did. I'm assuming it'll be games like Mario Party or things like that, or like maybe 1-2 Switch. But it,
1-2 Switch shouldn't need multiple systems anyway, right? Like it's supposed to, like all of the interaction is supposed to be the 2 people with the 2 Joy-Con.
Yeah. But I'm guessing.
Have we decided on that? Is Joy-Con the plural of Joy-Con?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So they're not Joy-Cons?
I don't think so. I think it's just Joy-Con. But don't quote me on it.
Okay.
Allegedly.
I mean, if we're part of the we are a podcast, we are a media outlet, we are forming the conversation about the Nintendo Switch, so we can help set this precedent.
Well, then I'm making the decision. We are making the decision.
That's right.
Joy-Con is a Joy-Con is a Joy-Con.
Right. Plural of Joy-Con is Joy-Con. It's like fish.
Yep.
Or sheep. That's about it.
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited
if it has
about
like
that.
download play. Also, it's been confirmed that you'll be able to manage your friends from the Switch system itself. The fact that there was any question of this is kind of remarkable, but here we go.
Yeah, it's we are still under the impression that any kind of matchmaking or voice chatting is going to have to happen through the app on the phone, right?
At least at launch.
Okay. Well, I'm sort of okay with that, like as a concept, just because like why should the machine have to do the communication things that like your phone can do? Like you have a phone.
Oh, I think it's I personally think it's enormously stupid.
Okay.
Because then it's like, well, why it doesn't make it, I just don't understand what the point would be. I think it's great to have it as an option,
Sure.
but you should be able to do everything on the device itself.
Sure.
You should be able to chat with your friends without having to get out your phone and, I don't know, just like calling them at that point.
Have you ever done that? Like when like trying to set up a game with someone, call them or text them to like make it work or schedule it or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've done, I don't, yeah, we're like playing Destiny and stuff, being like, hey, I'm going to get on, but I've never been like, hey, okay, we're going to play, now let me boot up the PlayStation app and call you.
And let's just chat the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, this thing's coming in super hot, so I'm operating under the assumption that in the fall, there's going to be a really big update that is going to include all of this functionality, like integrated into the system.
Oh, the fall fix everything update.
I mean, it's a industry standard.
Sure. Yes.
Like
true.
everyone, like Microsoft has them, PlayStation has them, Nintendo will now have them. That's why we're paying however much money Nintendo decides we're going to be paying for it.
Great point.
But
whenever they decide to make us pay for it.
And I also assume, and I don't know how many times I've said assume on this podcast so far, but that like DNA is the one that's building their voice stuff, and so it kind of makes sense to me that it's taking form as a voice app for right now.
Sure.
Or as a phone app. But also the way that information has been like weird and trickled out, I feel like it's possible that there will be some sort of capability on the Switch that they haven't discussed yet.
Oh, I mean, there has to be because they haven't discussed Virtual Console yet.
Right. So no, sorry. I mean specifically for like the online
sure.
stuff. Yeah. So, this one, in an interview with that one gamer who I believe is a YouTuber, Miyamoto and
Aonuma.
Cool.
AJ Aonuma
says they don't believe it's possible to 100% Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in less than 7 days, which that just seems like one of those declarative sentences that you just don't put out there on the internet. It's like a challenge.
Because the internet will figure it out.
Yeah.
And people will get the game and play it nonstop for people 7 days straight.
Kill themselves.
Right.
Attempting. Yeah.
But so is that encouraging? Also, what does it mean to 100%? Like get everything.
Yeah, I assume like all the shrines and all that kind of stuff.
This is also be like collecting all the beetles, catching all the fish. There's a lot of stuff in Zelda games that I don't really like doing.
Yeah. Do you know what I hated was in Twilight Princess was the fishing mini game that opens that game. It's like it's like teaching you to use the Wiimote, and so you had to like tilt it and cast it and like wait, and then like I hated that mini game with a passion because I found the controls so impossibly stupid.
All fishing in Zelda games bad.
I'll
throw it out.
I'll one up you.
Yeah.
Fishing in games in general.
Bad. Throw it out.
I don't particularly care for it in Animal Crossing. It's my least favorite thing to do.
Yeah. It feels like you have no control over what's happening, and I'm bad at it.
Do you like fishing in real life?
I don't think I've ever actually been real fishing in real life.
Yeah, I don't care for it. So maybe that's why I don't like it in video games. I'm just like, oh, here's a simulation of something I don't like in real life.
That's a great point.
But yeah, there was like a leaked summary or like what would you say it like blurb for the Legend of Zelda guidebook, Breath of the Wild guidebook, and in it listed like 900 shrines or something like that, like 900. So hopefully it's because my big fear with Breath of the Wild is it's just going to be an empty like world of nothingness,
right?
Or conversely, it's just going to be a world of like doing like tedious tasks a million times.
Right. You don't need to be reuniting people with their cats over and over again.
Yeah, it will be interesting because generally I don't love open world games because I don't like the tedium of, there's like 5 different types of missions and you're just going to do those 5 different types of missions over and over and over again. So it will be very interesting to see.
And there's also something about like the game giving you the freedom to be like, figure out which things matter to you. Like, no. you tell me which things matter, and I'll do them.
Right. Like I think we've talked about before. I never again want to complete a mission that's like go to this general area, and now we're gonna highlight on your mini map like a circle, and somewhere in this circle
find
is an
the
item
thing.
for you to find. Like never again do I want to do that.
Right. Never again.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah, me too.
But will I 100% it? I can't imagine I will.
No, but I mean, okay, we got to move past this news item, but what's the last game you've 100%ed?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, me neither. 100%ed?
I don't think there's, I couldn't even tell you.
Maybe I did Final Fantasy VII at one point, 100%ed. Maybe.
Yeah, I just don't play that games that way.
No.
I get
Certainly
bored.
not anymore.
It's like tedium.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon Duel, figure-based virtual board game.
There's a typo in that. That's my fault. I apologize, Mark.
It was released on iOS and Android last week. It's free to play and available now.
Yeah, I downloaded this thing. It is kind of boring and really chatty. But if you're looking for a board game to play on your phone and you're way into Pokemon,
does it have multiplayer of any kind, like asynchronous multiplayer?
I can't tell. I mean, if it has multiplayer, it'd have to be real time. Because like the board game is, you wouldn't really be able to. It would be super boring if you could only like do one turn and then wait for someone else to do the second turn.
So does it have microtransactions?
Yes. So it's that same sort of like gotcha mechanic of where you buy a pack, and then in the pack is either more Pokemon or things that you can use to level up the Pokemon or evolve them or whatever.
Can you explain this game to me? Because I'm imagining like the game, like a board game, like the game of life, and
it is a little bit like that. So
figure out how,
So the map is almost more like the Sorry board, right? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to your opponent's like home space, and they're trying to get to your home space. And instead of it being just like one circle around the board, you can also like take shortcuts kind of through the board. And then when the Pokemon encounter each other, then they do battle. And battle is basically all Pokemon have like a little wheel of abilities, and that just like spins and it selects one that each of them use. And you know, it's about trying to match up, you know, types, advantageous types, so that you're coming at a fire Pokemon with your water Pokemon or whatever.
And so when you start the game, do you start with like one Pokemon, and then
you have six Pokemon on the bench, and they have six Pokemon on the bench, and you decide which one you put on your home space first, and then it moves from there. And then every turn you can either move a Pokemon or put another one into play.
Oh, so it's like Sorry that way?
Yes.
And then when you do the microtransactions, or I'm assuming you can get them in game as well, without you like earn it in game.
Yeah, you also earn like currency and packs and stuff in game.
So then you earn these packs, or you buy these packs, you open them up, they have Pokemon inside, and then you change
Pokemon,
and then you can like switch out your bench as long as they're not already on the board.
Well, you can't change your bench once the game is, so like an actual game doesn't take very long. You can play a game of Pokemon Duel in like 3 or 4 minutes. And so, yeah, what you're doing basically is just trying to get a better bench for the next time you play.
I see. And then you can earn other things. Like, are there like cheat items?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are like cards that grant like different, be like for this turn, all, you know, leaf type deal double damage or something like that.
Is there some sort of trading mechanic, or is it like, okay, I
don't know
keep
yet.
like earning? I mean, it doesn't sound like we'll ever find out.
No,
it doesn't sound that
I'm definitely gonna stop playing it. You'll notice I did not list it among the what are we playing this week.
Great point.
Yep.
Michel Ancel seems to be teasing the rumored Rabbids Mario game on his Instagram account. We've talked about this in the past. You've probably read about it. It's this rumored RPG type, maybe tactical RPG type game that includes Mario characters and the Rabbids from Ubisoft's Rabbids? Raving Rabbids?
Raving Rabbids? Rabbids?
Must be raving.
They're definitely not rabid. That would be That's a problem if your rabbits are rabid.
So he posted a photo of him holding a plunger with the caption, "Everyday's life, got to fix the plumbery and felt a bit ratified." Rabbitified. He's French.
Right. Well, and he's also being got to fix the plumbery. I mean, he's being whimsical with language here, right?
Yeah, sure.
And French.
I mean,
it
yeah.
can be both.
I've seen Amelie. You can be both. So yeah, I mean, even though the game it's been rumored before the Switch launch or reveal, and even though it hasn't been, right before the reveal, like a week or so before, there were rumors that it had been pushed back to later in the year. It's like September or something. So yeah, I believe this game is coming. This seems to pretty heavily hint at it.
That, yeah.
And it'll just be just another game that hitting the Switch in 2017, which right now there's a lot of them.
It's interesting to me that they wouldn't announce it anyway, though, on during the press event, because like it's so weird. It's one of those things that like as we were hearing about it, as we were hearing rumors, I was like, that doesn't sound real. And I would just like confirmation that it's real.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's E3, in
E3,
June.
That's true.
And Nintendo also has a habit of doing stuff like this, or not exactly this, but I mean, how many times at an E3 during like the Wii and Wii U era, when they were still doing conferences, like not just directs, that they would talk about basically like no games during the actual conference, and then afterwards would just release on their press site like a video and being like, oh right, and also like,
by the way,
that we didn't even talk about, but they're also coming, and
right.
everybody would just be pulling their hair out and be like, why didn't you mention these in the conference themselves?
They needed to talk about the vitality sensor is why.
Oh, R.I.P. your vitality sensor.
Not so vitality sensor. What are you sensing now, vitality sensor?
So there's a Chinese news site is saying that Nintendo games like New Super Mario Brothers will launch on the Nvidia Shield in China. So the rumored agreement is that Nintendo is allowing Nvidia to put their older games on the Shield exclusively in China.
Now that's interesting. So there was a ban in China for a long time about selling game consoles, correct?
So currently, I don't think Nintendo has a mainland China presence. I could be wrong, but I don't think they officially sell anything in mainland China. They do in Hong Kong, they do in Taiwan. Like the most recent Pokemon Sun and Moon has support for simplified Chinese, which is used in mainland China. But I don't believe they officially release anything there.
Sure.
And so this is an interesting way for PlayStation is available in China.
But that's very recent, right?
I believe so. Okay. I want to say within the last 5 years. I don't know that Microsoft has that at like Xbox is available there officially. And so this is an interesting way for like Nintendo and Nvidia to make inroads. If it's true, it's also interesting that they seem to be very close collaborators at this point.
Yeah, that Nintendo's actually like giving up a little ground on that, because you normally don't see Nintendo software on anything else, except for recently with phones.
Right. About 6,000 Pokemon Sun and Moon players have been banned from online play for using hacks, modifications, and like other means to alter items and trainer info.
You can't cheat. Or maybe 6,000 people can't cheat.
Maybe you can.
Maybe you can. Maybe you're the lucky one.
I always wonder, how do they catch cheaters in like instances like this?
How do they catch them, or like how do they confront them?
No, I assume like confront them. You just log in and you're like, you just get an error message.
And it just goes womp womp.
Yeah, and you like try to log in, you get an error message, and it's like, huh, okay. And then you Google it and you see that 6,000 people were blocked and you were one of them.
Sure.
But I just wonder like how they
Like if they're just like running sweeps, or if there's like a Pokemon detective unit.
Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu is on the case.
Wait, yeah. Wow, we haven't heard anything about Detective Pikachu recently.
Yeah, no, we have not.
What a weird game.
I
can't wait.
It'll come at some point.
Is he gonna? Does he? I feel like I haven't watched the trailer since it was like announced. Does he talk in it?
Yes, Detective Pikachu speaks Japanese. He will speak English.
Does he sound like?
No, he sounds like this.
Okay, great.
He's like a hard-boiled detective.
What an amazingly stupid premise that I love so much.
And the rest of the Pokemon don't talk. Like the rest of the Pokemon are like regular Pokemon, but like he can communicate with the other Pokemon, which is why he's like solving Pokemon crimes.
That's like I love everything about this.
It's so good. I can't wait to play it.
But I just was it for the Wii U or for the 3DS? Was it announced for the?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not coming to the Wii U.
Not the Wii U.
Yeah,
we know the Wii U is done.
No, I guess probably what they do is they just have like data logs, right, of everybody, and then they look for certain parameters. They're probably just really good at Microsoft Excel is what it comes down to.
They're probably really good at Microsoft Excel. And then every day they go in and just go Control F for those parameters.
They just know how to use formulas and all that stuff. Also in Pokemon news, the Pokemon Bank now works with Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Hey, all right. The whole thing has been, all the Pokemon games are all tied together now with the Pokemon Bank.
Yeah, which is people have been waiting for that.
Yeah, because now you can bring your red and blue Pokemon, up from the past into the future.
And that has to be, we talked about this before, the virtual console versions of red and blue, right?
Yes, that's right. And yellow, for that matter.
And yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to transfer missing
no, the missing number. Do you know about the missing no?
No.
Okay, so missing no.
Wait, is this how they get like Mewtwo or something, or Meowth?
No, not Meowth, but just Mew. I don't know.
Mew. Okay.
So missing no is a glitch in the original red, blue, and yellow Pokemon. Where you have to go through this, like, it's funny. There are all these absurd little dances you have to go through, like stand here, talk to this guy, fly here, surf through this, and then you encounter a Pokemon that looks like kind of a Tetris block, but not like very clearly articulated, and you can catch it just like you would catch anything else, and then it's just like this weird glitch with no stats or anything, and like you can't do anything, but you can have it in your party and just kind of becomes the 151st Pokemon in the original series. If you bring it into, so it's just sort of like an anomaly. People thought it was funny to catch this thing that was, just like extra data in the game. And so if you bring it forward into Sun and Moon, it changes the nicknames that you've given to the Pokemon that are in your party. It moves them all down a step. So like you could have an Ivysaur named Charmander, and it just bumps them all down. So look out.
Yeah. Well, I like that because it doesn't like ruin them. It just is it's a minor
cosmetic problem,
major annoyance. Because sure, if you have like 10 Pokemon, no big deal. You can edit them back. If you have 500 Pokemon,
right?
You're like, yeah, that's funny.
Everyone is named not so wrong that you would be like, oh, I see, it's so wrong. It's like, no, he's just got the name of someone else.
Yeah.
There's
also a new Pikachu edition of the new 3DS XL coming out on February 24th and will retail for the standard $199.99.
It's a good looking machine too. Like the drawing of the Pikachu on it is kind of like sketchy and neat. It doesn't just look like the normal like computer printed Pikachu. Also, hey, if you're looking for a new 3DS, you might be able to buy one again.
Retro Gamer. So there was an interview with Retro Gamer with Suda51, and they talked about making Killer 7 and No More Heroes. And he said something when he was talking about making No More Heroes that I just thought was interesting. It's not really news as much as it's just like, oh, this came up recently.
Sure, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, so he says, quote, at one point, though, for Japanese people, they don't necessarily think of Nintendo hardware as for kids, end quote. And I think that's something that we don't really consider very often, because in the West it kind of has this stigma as like a kid console.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to me that that's not true of Japan.
Well, I mean, I feel like Japanese culture is different in the way it uh like treats media for children, you know what I mean? Or like they put cute, like the cute aesthetic on a different pedestal than we do. Like if we see something that's cute, we're like, "Oh, that's for kids." And the Japanese are just like, "Oh, that's cute."
Right. It's like the difference between happy Kirby and angry Kirby.
That's right. That's right. We want our Kirby to be angry. We want him to suck in an army man and chew him up and spit him out. Do you remember that commercial?
No.
There was the original Kirby's Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy was like, it was like, meet Nintendo's new hero, and it's showing this like big buff army guy with like guns and stuff, and then the joke is they pull back and it's Kirby, but Kirby like breathes the guy in, inhales him, and spits him out, and he's like a gory mess of like army dude.
And then does Kirby get like a bandolier and
Well, no. So this would have been before, because in Kirby's Dream Land, he doesn't actually gain the powers. That doesn't come until the NES version of the game. Yeah, the original Kirby game, he does not absorb powers.
Huh.
Yeah, a fundamental part of the Kirby DNA, and it was not in the first game.
Do you remember the commercial for Super Smash Brothers 64, like the first Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah, where they're like, it's like mascots in costumes, right? And they're like skipping around in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, or just like in a grassy field,
Yeah.
they're just like skipping around, and it's that Monkeys song, like you and me.
Yeah, it's the Turtles, I think.
Okay, great. Oh, a real band, not just a fake TV band.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? As far as I can tell, the '60s were all made up. None of it's real.
And then they start just like beating each other up. I loved that commercial as a kid. I still think it's a great commercial.
Yeah, I mean, if they advertised the new Smash that way, I would be way into it.
So the upcoming 3DS game Mario Sports Superstars is due out on March 24th and will support a new set of amiibo cards featuring Mario and company participating in various sporting events. So the retail release of Mario Sports Superstars will come with a pack of cards, and additional packs will be $4.99.
So that's more amiibo cards. Previously, it had just been the Animal Crossing cards, and so now there'll be some Mario cards.
How do you feel about amiibo cards?
I'm not into it.
Yeah, me either. It feels dumb.
It feels dumb. It feels like, why can't these be like? Why can't I have digital amiibo cards? Like, I don't want to bring, especially on a 3DS. Like, I don't want to bring something else so I can play the whole game. Further bummer to this is that they are reusing art assets on these cards from other games and other promotional materials. So like there was someone on Reddit that like found there's like a Bowser thing where they just sort of superimposed a soccer net over an image of Bowser from the Super Mario Brothers DDR. So like he's like down on the ground and like like kind of breakdancing, and then they're like, "I'll just put a soccer net in front of it," and it looks
Not
like
even from a sports game?
No, not even from a sports game. And another one of Mario pitching, doing like he's throwing a fireball in the original thing, and they just superimposed a baseball over the fireball.
Yeah, amiibo cards just feel like a cash grab to me.
Sure.
They just feel lazy. I mean, this is a great example of just being kind of lazy.
Like actually lazy. It would be kind of cool if they like commissioned artists to like draw these things or paint them or whatever. But if it's just going to be like, even if it's new art that they're generating in like the regular Mario style, like I just don't care. If it can be a unique art thing on it, I guess not unique, but like a new art thing on its own, then I would be more inclined to roll with it.
The game itself seems pretty cool.
The game itself does seem neat. It's a little bit weird to even think about it as it's coming out after the Switch is out, but okay. It does seem cool. It's like 5 different sports games, and it seems like they're full-fledged sports games. So I don't know. It could be fun.
New releases.
Oh yeah, let's move on to new releases.
I can't believe it's already February.
Yeah, it is basically already February.
Because
when you're hearing this episode, because of course you're downloading and listening to it on the very first day, because you've subscribed and you've rated and reviewed us, and you sent an email to tell us that you rated and reviewed us. You did that at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and you told all your friends about the show on the day it comes out. So February is tomorrow was my point.
yes.
Yes. February 1st is tomorrow, and Fire Emblem Heroes comes out on the 2nd.
Yes, on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So it comes out on Thursday.
Okay, do we need to start over? You listen to this show
no,
on the day it comes out.
No,
Okay,
no,
all
no,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes.
I just feel like
on
with Super Mario Run,
yes.
that the lead up to that was so long that it
Mhm.
feels weird for them to just be like, oh, and yeah, and here's this Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, and I mean, it felt weird when they announced it that it was like, and coming up February 2nd.
It felt so far away to me at the
Really?
time. Yeah.
Well, it's not.
And then on Friday, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World is coming out for the 3DS. It's the standard $39.99 for the game, or $49.99 with the Yarn Poochie amiibo.
Yeah, kind of cool. It's I like the game on the Wii U. I don't think I'm gonna double dip on it.
Does the 3DS version have co-op?
That's a great question.
Because the Wii U version does, right?
Mhm. Yeah, the Wii U version does. And it is a lot of fun. And the amiibo support is nice on it too, because you get all these different Yoshi costumes. It's so weird to me that they changed the name of the game from Yoshi's Woolly World to Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World.
Instead of like Yoshi's Woolly World, now featuring Poochie.
Yeah.
Like kind of like Welcome Amiibo on
exactly.
New Leaf.
Putting the new word at the beginning of it like changes the way you alphabetize it. That's the part that bothers me the most. Like if you're going through your Wii U game collection, you're like, oh, Yoshi's Woolly World, that's going to be near the end. But if you're like alphabetizing your 3DS games, you got to somewhere in like the middle third somewhere to get Poochie. I don't like it, Mark.
I don't
like it.
No, I'm considering it because I don't think they thought this through.
I don't think they did either. How are things supposed to be organized? All right, let's move out of the news. Oh god, I'm queuing up all the wrong music. Mark, let's move out of the news. Fine. Disaster from start to finish.
You know what? If you're not listening to this one, I get it.
No, I am angry about it. You should listen to this one. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of our show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. For the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not Nintendo related, thereby fulfilling the contract of 433. Mark, what are we talking about?
Star Wars titles.
We are talking about Star Wars titles, and we are doing so because the most recent Star Wars movie got a name.
Well,
I guess, yes, sorry. The one that is coming out next got a name.
Episode 8 is known as The Last Jedi.
So I've seen a little bit of hullabaloo, people saying, oh, look, these new Star Wars titles make a sentence. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. What do you make of that?
The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. Oh, like the first word of each one?
No.
Oh, together. I see.
Yes,
I understand.
I
understand. No. You said it. I mean, I know what the title of every Star Wars movie is. It's not on you.
I will quiz you on that.
Okay. I hope that's not true.
I mean, it sets like what could the last one be that would then be a part of...
I mean, to me, that feels like every Pixar movie takes place in the same world.
Right, where you're like, I don't
know
That
or
doesn't
care.
matter. Right. I don't know or care. Doesn't change my experience.
It's set up this weird like cottage industry of like of like vloggers making like these Pixar World Series. You know, we're not talking about that.
No,
We're talking about Star Wars
We're
titles.
talking about Star Wars titles.
Last Jedi, sure, fine.
Great. How do you feel about Star Wars titles in general? Do you think that they are particularly good titles, particularly bad titles?
I actually think the best title is Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace, I think, is the best title.
Do you think it's the best title because it's like the most appropriate for the movie, or just because it's like ominous sounding and cool?
Yeah, I think it's the most like evocative.
Yeah, for sure.
Because could you imagine like if today's fandom was around when Empire Strikes Back was announced?
Jeez.
Right? Like
Yeah.
we're so used to it that
Mhm.
we don't even think twice about it. Same with A New Hope. Ugh.
Well, A New Hope was like a retroactive. It
Yeah.
was just called Star Wars when it came out.
Right, but only after. But A New Hope is, that happened when Empire happened, I believe. So it was within like 5 years or
Sure.
something when they decided it was going to be multiple films. They were like, okay, Star Wars is the franchise.
This one
And-
needs another title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, none of them are great.
What do you think the worst one is?
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the
for
Clones.
sure. But that may also be because I think it's the worst Star Wars movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
That is the
unwatchable.
Yeah, real bad. There's something about the like quality of that title though, Attack of the Clones, that's so cheesy and so like sci-fi serial that like I almost come back around to liking it again.
It is very fitting if you take it in this like Flash Gordon type of way.
Yes, exactly.
Same with honestly like The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, for sure. What about the so Return of the Jedi was originally called Revenge of the Jedi.
Mhm. But
So
Jedis don't get revenge.
Jedis
They
don't
get
get revenge.
even.
Oh my goodness. No, they just come back.
They
That's
just
all.
come back. They just return.
That's right. I do like that Revenge of the Sith like takes that back. I still think it's a terrible movie, but
It is. It's a bad movie. I don't know
Oh,
why
yeah.
people give that one a pass.
because it's like violent or
Right. It's darker,
Yeah.
grittier.
I think so. I don't know. Mark, have you been hearing a lot of like revisionism on like how people view the prequels, or like prequel apologists? I feel like are starting to become a thing.
Yeah.
I'll get real mad about this.
Oh
We
yeah,
talk about
no,
it too much.
me too.
Oh, well,
Good thing we won't be able to.
we will never know. We were accompanied today by the EBU Radio Orchestra Ensemble, something like that. Mark, let's move into our topic of the week, and I hope that this music cue is correct. See, some things still work. Today we are wrapping up our 3-part hardware roundup. So we're into the 2000s now. We are getting up to the Wii generation, which marks a weird time for Nintendo. Mark, what was your relationship? What was your relationship with video games? Where was it like coming into the Wii generation? Were you playing a lot? Where I want to place us like biographically in time with this thing.
So the Wii was released in 2006, at the end of 2006. I was not playing a lot of video games. The console, I didn't even personally own a console. My family had a GameCube, and so we were playing I was playing like GameCube titles.
Yeah.
When I would be over at my parents' house, but other than that, I wasn't really playing video games. I had a DS at this point that I would play. But again, even at this point, I wasn't playing it that regularly.
Right, like not super heavily.
Yeah, I think I had, like Mario Kart DS and a few other titles, but it wouldn't be for another, or maybe around the time that the Wii came out, that I started really playing DS titles as well.
So I was in a similar boat in that, like, I had a GameCube and I had a PlayStation 2, but like the PlayStation really at that point was just my DVD player. I was in college too. This is my It came out during I guess the year after college for me. Um, but so like I hadn't, and maybe college may have also just been like a time where I didn't have time really to play a bunch of video games. But I think there was also a little bit of games becoming something that I didn't love during that time. Like Halo became really huge, and people were playing it on campus and like doing all like the multiplayer stuff. And like I played dropped in and out of that, but like the people that really played it, and it quickly became not fun to play those games with those people. So like I remember feeling very disconnected from like the concept of video games or console gaming until I heard that the Wii was going to be different. Do you remember like when you discovered that it was going to be a different kind of system?
Well, I remember so the Revolution, right,
Yeah.
was the code name for it,
Mhm.
and Nintendo announced it, and all they really said was that like it was going to be different.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew what that meant. And then when motion controls were announced, I what I remember more is that before the E3 that they revealed it,
Mhm.
they announced the Wii name.
Oh yeah.
And now Wii is just like second nature.
Right.
It's like Empire Strikes Back. We're like, whatever.
Right. We're not going to think it's stupid.
Yeah. But at the time,
Oh yeah, we did not.
nobody was like, oh, yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Nintendo, good one.
Yeah. Going from Revolution to Wii, woo.
They always have better code names than actual system names.
I don't know. Well,
not Project Cafe. I guess.
Well, arguably, Wii U was a terrible name.
Oh yeah. No, that's true too.
From a marketing, not that Project Cafe really would have killed it.
No,
But,
Project Cafe,
but it sounds nice.
But like the Revolution,
right?
I guess even Project Dolphin. That's not great either.
Well, and
but NX I think is better than Switch.
Oh, I disagree.
Okay.
I think Switch is appropriate for the.
I think it's
for
appropriate.
The console.
NX sounds tough though.
Which, as we all know, is Nintendo's image.
That's right.
So around the same time that the Wii came out, I actually differ from you in that I bought a Xbox 360, and this same generation I would also end up buying a PS3 because all my friends ended up having PlayStations. But and I had never owned a not Nintendo console up to this point. So this was my first foray into, actually around this time was when it was kind of a video game explosion for me because I borrowed like friends' PS2s so I could play old PlayStation games. Like that's when I played the Final Fantasies that were on PlayStation, like all that kind of stuff. And so this was actually like expanding my video game horizons.
Leading into the release of the Wii, or
all around like the same time, like 2006 to like 2008 or 9 was just like a video game explosion for me.
So, I mean, I guess I'm not that different from it, just in that the end of 2006 into 2007 was also a video game explosion for me too, because I was working as a hall director at the college that I graduated from, which just meant that I had very few responsibilities that weren't just like reaching out to students. So most of my days were spent with my door wide open and people hanging out in my apartment. And so I had the Wii hooked up, and everyone came in and would just like play it all the time. But there were students that had 360s or PlayStation 3s that also had like their tiny dorm TVs, and I had like a large TV. So like if you wanted to play Dead Rising, you can't read that text on a normal TV. So like people came in and played. It was an explosion for me too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems impossible thinking back on it, but that last console generation was such a change of like such like a weird time of transition for video games. Like it's incredible to think about. The Wii did not support HD gaming.
Yeah, that's nuts now.
Like not every game had 16 by 9 support.
Yeah.
That's and partly because penetration of HD TVs
Very low at that
was
time.
like
Yeah.
low at that time. And this is also when we started to see Japanese companies in general struggle with HD development.
Yeah. Because the
Uh,
costs are so much higher.
yeah, so like games that had thrived in the PlayStation era, like JRPGs,
Mm-hmm.
were few and far between on home consoles, and yeah, it's just a very weird time. So the stark like now we think of the difference between the Wii U and the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as one of like power, sure, but also just like game titles.
Yeah.
And back then the difference was even starker because it was like uh the difference between power was significantly greater.
Mm-hmm.
The difference in
How you interacted
was like significantly different. It was the types of games that were available on
Mhm.
each were the most different
They've ever been,
they've
yeah.
ever been, and probably ever will be. Like it's uh the what the Wii did and what everybody else did was so radically different at
Well, and
first.
I actually think that, it's not just like the graphical capabilities or the way that you interact with like the control scheme, but it's both the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 were like designed to be online machines, right? They had such good, eventually, online infrastructure, but like the Wii was so bad at that.
No voice chat.
No.
City folk came with like a
Yes.
microphone type thing that you were supposed to like sit on top of your television, but that was
But
the
boy,
extent of it.
That's confusing. Yeah, I mean, you ever try to play Smash Brothers on the which one is that? Brawl online? Cuz it never worked.
Yeah, I did. I tried, but yeah, it never ever worked. Mario Kart Wii worked fine.
It worked intermittently.
Oh, I don't remember ever having problems with Mario Kart online.
I do remember having problems with it. Or at least it was just like slow, or I would get frustrated with it easily. And then my roommates would be playing something on either 360 or PlayStation 3 that got online right away and match made right away.
Now, and I don't expect the Switch to match the Wii success by any means, just because culturally is like cell phones and all
Yeah.
that are available now. So the audience that the Wii was able to capture, I just don't think exists anymore. But
Yeah, let's talk popularity.
like culture wise, or like Nintendo wise, they were in a similar place as they are coming off of the Wii U. The GameCube was a failure
Sure.
by pretty sales wise by any measure.
Well,
And so they were hungry.
Mhm.
They like were looking to do something unique. And so that's kind of the culture that the Wii was born out of. And it feels like a similar thing happened. Like the Wii U was a disaster.
Right.
And so they are kind of hungry, looking for a new way to appeal to people.
Right. And that's what the Wii was, and the Wii quickly became that, right? It quickly became like this super powerful, not in terms of hardware, but just it took mind share, right?
Yeah. So it launched in November of 2006 in North America, and then December in the rest of the world, and almost immediately became impossible to find.
Yeah, really, really tough to find. The PlayStation 3s were also hard to find at that time, but were selling for like $700.
Yeah.
What did this thing? What was it $250 when it came out?
I think it was $250.
Pretty great price point.
Wii Sports packed in.
Mm-hmm. And Wii Sports was also not only a pack-in, but like a perfect demo to anyone to show off the value of the thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, I should say it was a pack-in, but not in Japan. In
Right.
Japan, it was sold separately from the beginning. So all told, the Wii shipped about 102 million units worldwide. Sold over 916 million games.
Which is a pretty good attach rate, really.
Yeah.
I mean, 9 games.
9 games per
system.
I think that's pretty good. Especially because the one of the of course what happened was that there was kind of the stratification where Nintendo titles on the Wii sold very well, and third-party games never gained a ton of traction.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people didn't know or like never figured out how to develop for the thing. Like there were the odd, like carnival games or whatever,
Just Dance.
yeah, that like found a good home there. But like developers like Capcom never really found Square Enix, like never really found a way to make their games work on the thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but I feel like the perfect example of that is Dead Space Extraction.
Oh yeah.
So like Dead Space was one of EA's big popular new IPs, and they made a Dead Space game for Wii, but instead of trying to make it like like Dead Rising Chop Till You Drop, the Wii version where it's just like this awful port of a
I forgot about Chop Till You Drop.
They made a light gun shooter, basically.
Right,
Like an on rails. And
which I guess
it's a fine game.
Capcom also did with the Resident Evil series.
With Umbrella Chronicles. And there were also a what is the name of that series? Like it's an arcade shooter, not Area 51. But anyways, that made a comeback on the Wii as well. There was a Wii version of that. And
it just like those games never by all accounts are like good versions of those games, right? Like or of like on rails light gun shooter kind of things. But like that's not for whatever reason that's not what people wanted to play on Wii. It's sort of a mystery what people wanted to play on Wii, right?
Is it? I mean, I feel like it became pretty clear. And it's part of what Nintendo started calling their like blue ocean strategy, which was this idea that
everyone can play
games. And so here's like the top 5 best-selling games. And none of these will surprise you. So Wii Sports sold almost 83 million copies.
It's so many games.
That includes pack-ins. So that includes like Mario Kart Wii sold almost 37 million. Wii Sports Resort sold almost 33 million. New Super Mario Brothers Wii sold 30 million. Wii Play sold almost 28 million.
When to be fair, Wii Play came with an additional Wii remote.
Right.
So that's why I had a copy of it.
But think that's like Wii Sports Resort, and Wii Play. So 3 mini game compilations.
Yeah.
That used your like Wiimote. Carnival Games was over a million seller. EA Active, whatever it was called, was over. It was sold well,
and Just Dance as well.
Yeah, and then Guitar Hero. So and then there was Mario Kart Wii. There was New Super Mario Brothers Wii. There was Smash Brothers. Like all of these sold well, but it seemed pretty like Wii Fit. Like it seemed pretty clear that what people were buying were these sort of party waggle games.
So I mean, that's. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's partially because the system sold so well because it was selling to people's parents and people who weren't normally playing games. So the kind of games that they were buying were like you say, the blue ocean experience. Whereas, like, if you were interested in a more hardcore gaming experience, whatever that means, you were probably doing it on a different console. There are, of course, a few exceptions to that, right? I mean, as far as like games that were popular or were good on the Wii that actually were a like hardcore kind of experience. And there aren't many, right? Like there's Donkey Kong Country Returns, there's the Galaxy games,
Metroid Prime 3 Corruption,
right, and the Metroid Prime trilogy as well. But kind of beyond that, I guess No More Heroes also falls into that category.
But like No More Heroes was like a smaller, cheaper project. There was no Red Dead Redemption. There was no Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, no open worlds really in this at all.
Yeah. And in like later Xbox and Sony got their own versions with like Sony Move, PlayStation Move, and Kinect.
Right. and Kinect has been like totally abandoned at this point.
I mean, Move basically has too.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
kind of
it's-
using it in VR,
yeah.
but
It's only a couple months away from abandoning that entirely too. So
yeah.
Um, I think one other thing that is super notable about the Wii is this is the introduction of the Virtual Console. This is the first time that you are able to play like just straight up emulations of Nintendo NES games, Super NES games, even Sega Genesis games, TurboGrafx, Nintendo 64 games eventually come to this thing, maybe even right away. I think right away. But that's something that we expect of all video game consoles now is like give me access to classic games. And it's something that we're still asking about for the Switch, which is due out in a month and 4 days because you listen to this on the day it comes out. So it's a month and 4 days. Yeah, but this is the first time that there was such a thing, and the controller, the pointer waggle controller, is very handily turned on its side, and then it becomes an NES controller, basically. The emulation was also very good. NES game emulation is not as good on the Wii U or 3DS as it was on the Wii. It's probably better on the NES Classic Edition. But they put a lot of. It's my understanding that the guts of the NES are in the Wii.
Huh.
So like it's not like running on emulated hardware. It's actually got the hardware in it, which is crazy.
That's interesting.
I just think it's a neat like Nintendo acknowledging their need for their history to be part of what they're doing moving forward.
What games do you think you played the most on the Wii?
Let's see. I mean, it's Mario Kart.
Yeah,
Mario
I think
Kart,
same
I
for
think,
me.
is the only answer. I played all the way through both of the Galaxy games. I love them. Actually, there is 1 star in Super Mario Galaxy 2 that I can't get.
I think Galaxy. I think the first one, and I think maybe 2 is the better game overall.
Mm-hmm.
But 1 will always be my favorite because it's the first time we saw it.
Yeah.
But I think it's my favorite 3D Mario.
Yeah, I would actually. You're right. 2 might be better. I kind of have a hard time separating them in my head. Like it's all one big awesome Mario experience.
Yeah. Did you ever play Did you play Metro Prime 3 Corruption?
No. I mean, I had it, and I played a little bit of it. I don't like the motion controls.
Yeah, I didn't like the controls either. People, there are a lot of people who think the trilogy with the motion controls is the best way to play it. But it never gelled for me.
Yeah, I have I purchased the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii U when it came to that a little bit ago. And I was like, I'm gonna play Metroid Prime again. I like that game. I'll like it now. And the control is a big block for me. Like I wish I could just play it with a GameCube controller or a classic controller or something, but you cannot.
That's how I feel about No More Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
I like No More Heroes. I think it's a fun game. I think and this was a problem with Wii games up until, I mean, I guess through the entire thing, because without Wii Motion Plus, right? Like the later thing that was that you could snap onto the end of a regular Wiimote or just buy Wii Motion Plus, which gave more precise 1-to-1, like the controls in No More Hero, I find frustrating.
Right. Well, because
for their imprecision.
Right. The motion controls were always reduced to point and waggle, and that's it. And the games that did take advantage of the Motion Plus, I mean, was it just Skyward Sword? There must have been something.
I mean,
else.
Like Wii Sports Resort.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, not much.
It ended up being a not super compelling way to play games in the end.
I love Resident Evil 4 Wii version. I actually like the first Umbrella Chronicles.
Yeah, I never played any of them.
It's fine for what it is. It's not, but it's fun for what it is. I wish they would make another Mario Strikers.
Oh, sure.
I think that's a really fun series.
Mario sports games in general, I think, are fun. WarioWare Smooth Moves.
That one's great.
I really liked WarioWare. That was a fun, anyone passing by my apartment could like come in and play WarioWare for a while.
Rhythm Heaven
Yep.
is a really fun one. And this was like also the explosion of Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
That's right.
So I had the Wii version of Beatles Rock Band.
Oh yeah, we had to put the Wii remotes in the guitar.
Yeah, yep.
So weird. What a weird solution.
And I also played the first Epic Mickey.
Oh, how was that?
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big theme park person and
right.
like Disney person, and so it was fun for that reason. It was definitely a game that it felt limited by its hardware,
Sure.
but it was interesting. If the camera, if not always the most fun.
Right. We kind of glossed over Skyward Sword. Did you ever mess with Skyward Sword at all?
No, and it has a pretty not great reputation.
Yeah, in the moment it was like heralded as possibly the best 3D Zelda game. But that perception of it dropped off pretty quickly after its release and now has sort of a garbage reputation.
It'll be interesting to see what happens when Breath of the Wild is released because the joke is that whenever the next Zelda's released, the previous one.
That's when we canonize the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think well, actually I don't know about that. Twilight Princess, I think we've like landed on like it's all right.
Well, I think what happens is we go through. It goes like this: Zelda's released, everybody loves it, and then the glow wears off, and everybody hates it. It's the worst one,
right?
And then the next one comes out, and we love that one, and then when the glow comes off the new one, then the previous one is like, no, Skyward Sword was bad. Do you know what I loved? Twilight Princess.
That's right.
Right? And then because when Wind Waker came out, it was like when Twilight Princess came out, I was like, Wind Waker, remember that garbage? And then Twilight Princess was like, yay, we love it. And then Skyward Sword came out, we were like, ugh, Twilight Princess. Yeah.
Right.
And then when we were like, ugh, Skyward Sword, we were like, hey, but remember
Twilight Princess was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a lot of math to do in your head. How many Zelda games are we at?
Yeah.
Count back.
So I think when Breath of the Wild comes out, it'll be great, and then people will hate it, and that's when Skyward Sword will be reevaluated.
And we'll get like an HD remake. I guess it was always
no, it wasn't.
It was not. Then we will get an HD remake. With HD rumble, so we can feel the sword.
Right.
We know
how many ice cubes are in the sword.
You beat me to the joke. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about the Wii?
What a crazy time. The DS and the Wii.
Yeah.
Just huge.
Just an enormously successful time for them in terms of like selling stuff, but like maybe a culturally poisonous time there.
Yeah, I think definitely changed Nintendo.
5 years later, the Nintendo 3DS comes out. February 26, 2011 in Japan, and March the rest of the world. We're still playing 3DSs today.
Mm-hmm.
So we have moved sort of into the modern era.
Yeah. Seems like we'll be playing in at least through this year.
Yep, that's right. Weirdly later into the year than I like. With every day closer to Switch, I feel weirder about getting announcements for 3DS. To the point where I'm kind of like, well, why is that Fire Emblem Echoes? Why is that coming out on that at all? Why isn't that just on Switch?
I mean, I guess they've sold like 62 million as of October. So who knows? There's probably maybe like 65. Maybe close to 70 million out there now after the holidays.
Yeah, that's a good point. That there is still an install base for it, and the Switch could bomb. That's possible.
And even if it does well, you'll still only be selling maybe 10 million in a fiscal year when you already have 70 million of something sold.
Right. So the 3DS, I feel like, is also weird for Nintendo in that it is this a piece of hardware that's been revised so many times, right? Um, or that there are so many different versions of it. It came out just sort of vanilla, and then in an XL, like a larger size, which is what you've got, right?
Mm-hmm.
The XL. And then the 2DS, which doesn't close and doesn't actually have the 3D glassesless 3D display. And then the new 3DS in both XL and non-XL forms. That's all crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, the 3DS is a system that feels like it's like trying to like figure itself out, like what its role is
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and in some ways, it is the original DS was also sort of an experimental thing. 2 screens, that's crazy. Having one touch screen, that's also like these are very weird things that drive what the software has to be. And the 3DS is carrying those two qualities forward, but there are other. I mean, glassesless 3D. That was something that we were like, whoa, that's strange. I don't know that it ever sold the system, but like it's something that I mean, obviously it's part of the branding of the thing, right? It's so weird to think about that now as like something they were leading with.
Yeah, because I always keep it turned off.
Yeah, me
Like I
too.
think of the 3D as an annoyance.
Hmm.
Um,
It is better on the new because it does track your face,
yeah.
but yeah, even when it's better, I'm still mostly like, well, I don't want it to drain the battery.
I mean, 70 or like sorry, like 62 million.
Hmm.
That's a lot of systems. But it is a big step down from the DS. But it also feels like the 3DS was where a lot of Japanese developers moved to. And right,
Sure, yeah.
because it's cheaper to develop for, and so you get maybe the more niche experiences that you don't get on HD home consoles
Yeah.
because they're too expensive to make anymore on those platforms.
It's also the like the place where you can make a game that requires buttons and also allows for touch in like that's the actual the handheld. Like there was also the Vita at this point, the PlayStation Vita, but that thing was poorly supported by Sony and never really took off in the way that either the DS or the 3DS or even the PSP did, um, so yeah, I mean there were a lot of development opportunities there that people were taking advantage of.
I think partly because the 3DS came out at a time when I was beginning to play less video games.
Mhm.
I just had less time to play them. So the 3DS, even though I think it's a great system and has a really good library of games that I will never have time to play,
Right.
it feels less special to me than the DS does.
It's I kind of have a hard time separating them as different systems in my head. Like I wish there was just a machine that was I mean basically I just want a 3DS that also has a Game Boy Advance slot on it, you know? Like that would be my ideal system right there.
Um, so Nintendo came out of the gate. This thing was overpriced.
It was
It
overpriced.
was like 250.
It had a really crummy launch lineup. A lot of games, but like nothing you wanted to play on it.
People complained about the hardware itself.
Mhm.
There were like screen scratching issues. That it was kind of like thick and
Mhm.
a little bit ugly. It looked like layered Jello to me because they had like the multiple
I mean,
colors.
it looked like the original release of the DS, right? Where it was like kind of chunky and like the top half didn't totally line up with the bottom half when you closed it.
Uh, and like 3DS just felt less, or the 3D aspect of it felt less vital,
Yeah.
right? It felt like a gimmick in a way that I guess like when it was announced, the touchscreen of the DS kind of felt like a gimmick, but you just became so used to it.
Well, and they just like made the right bet on that like everything would be because now if you have a screen in front of you and you can't touch it to interact with it, it feels weird.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
that wasn't true at the time. Um, if we're living in some sort of alternate reality where glasses free 3D had become standard somehow, then the 3DS would have looked like a pioneering genius thing.
Yeah, it was also a time where 3D was having a renaissance.
Everyone loved Avatar.
Yeah.
I don't like Avatar.
Street Pass is the first time. It's weird to me that it's been 5 years of the 3DS because it doesn't feel that old.
Yeah.
And Street Pass feels so like just part of the Nintendo experience.
Yeah.
That it's weird to me that it has only been on the 3DS and will only ever be on the 3DS because it doesn't seem like it's going to be part of the Switch.
Well, Street Pass, yeah. Street Pass and like Miiverse feel very like tied together for me. And the Miis have obviously been around since the Wii, which I guess is something we could have talked about in the Wii too, is that like making Miis, like that was a thing. That could be a Friday night, right? Get a bunch of people together and make a bunch of Miis. But the Miis also play a big part of the 3DS. They act as your avatar in Street Pass games, and all kinds of Miis will show up in as playable characters in Mario Kart and Smash Brothers. So that's I think that's why Street Pass feels like it's been around for longer, is because for me, at any rate, it's so closely tied to Miis. So when the 3DS came out, we were talking about this, that like it was struggling, had a bad launch lineup, cost too much, hardware concerns, and so Nintendo was like, okay, everyone who adopted this thing early, wasn't me, y'all are ambassadors, and they like gave users or early adopters access to like some games.
Yeah, so it's like NES games and a few Super Nintendo games.
Super Nintendo games? Because the Super Nintendo games are only playable on the new 3DS.
I could be wrong,
okay,
but I believe there was one or two Super Nintendo games, and the reason why they never did it afterwards is because the way that they emulated it was incredibly difficult. Very like resource heavy.
Sure.
But I could be wrong. But I think there was at least one SNES title in there. And there are like, but I know for sure there are games in the ambassador list that have never been released on Virtual Console.
Right, which is so weird. I'm looking for the list of these of the games.
I mean, it's no surprise that like the best-selling games on it the best-selling game was Pokemon X and Y.
Mm-hmm.
And the third best-selling game was Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. And I think at this point, although we don't have official numbers for it, I'm sure the best-selling game at this point is actually probably Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
But X and Y feels so long ago. Again, it feels weird to me that the 3DS is the same 3DS from almost 5 years ago, going on 6 years.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, time almost doesn't make sense. That, like, 5 years ago simultaneously feels like super long ago and also not very long ago at all. Here's the list of ambassador games: Metroid Fusion, Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, Wario Land 4, WarioWare, I don't know which version this is, Mega Micro Games, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, and Fire Emblem Sacred Stones.
So they were GBA titles.
Those are GBA titles, yeah. Oh, and then there are also 10 NES games: Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Donkey Kong Jr., Yoshi, Wrecking Crew, Ice Climber, Balloon Fight, NES Open Tournament Golf, and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so Nintendo trying to do something right by the people who adopted early.
I must have been thinking the GBA games, because those are not, for the most part, available on the 3DS, right?
That's a great point.
Okay.
They are not. Yeah, that's right. That's so weird that you can get GBA games on the Wii U, but not on the.
And again, I think
3DS.
The reason why that is true is that the way they emulated it was like they tapped into the DS hardware that was in the 3DSs because DSs could play GBA games.
Right.
But newer versions of the 3DS cannot, right? They don't have the slot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is why the games have stayed exclusive to Ambassador. So like you couldn't like I believe you couldn't put your system to sleep and things like that because it was like,
oh sure, because it's not set up for that.
Yeah.
Other big games on the 3DS.
A Link Between Worlds, Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. That was a funny one where when it was announced, people were like, "Cool," but the art style is awful. We hate this. We hate this. We hate this. And then when it actually came out, it's now a lot of people's favorite Zelda game, maybe ever. And
we haven't had the backlash to it yet.
No, but I still think the art style is not great. I don't love the art style.
That is fair. Fire Emblem Awakening, another huge one. And Fire Emblem Fates.
First time we got a Super Smash Brothers on a handheld. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask remakes,
which are both great remakes. Man, they're so good. Like, as far as I'm concerned, they're the only way to play those games now. Just because the old ones look crummy by comparison.
Star Fox 64 remake and subsequent bombing.
Yeah, Star Fox might not be a franchise with life in it.
No,
I don't think.
I don't know if it was just like of its time, because like the first one was a graphical showcase. The second one did well, and then there's been no successful Star Fox title. Monster Hunter 4, Resident Evil Revelations. Man, that feels like it came out a million years ago.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I mean the 3D, and this is not to mention any of the indie titles that are on the 3DS.
Right, Shovel Knight.
And there's like Ace Attorney games. So the 3DS has an incredible library. I think it's just because I don't personally have time to play all the games I want to play that the library on it feels that I don't love my 3DS as much as I loved my DS.
Sure. Well, and I think there also just is something to your 3DS feeling like your DS again, which is obviously a problem that Nintendo had with the Wii U, partially being like the Wii again, and also just having a horrible time like figuring out the branding and the name and what it even was. Mark, we've transitioned now. We are talking about the Wii U.
Well, to your point, I 100% understand why they kept the Wii name.
Oh, yeah.
You just sold 100 million consoles. Why would you throw away that name? At the same time, the Wii U is a bad name made terrible by confusing marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like, we can look at it now and say like, oh yeah, I see why they kept the Wii name. By the time they were releasing new hardware, they had to, because nothing was happening on the Wii.
Even from them.
Yeah, even from them. Like Skyward Sword came out super late, and even that there was like another year or something before the Wii U came out.
That's a really good point. Is that by the end of the Wii's life, it was long in the tooth, and not just like technologically, but that blue ocean that Nintendo had been cultivating,
right,
had moved on to smartphones.
That's
and
right.
Beginning to move on to tablets. So the Wii felt creaky about 3 or 4 years in, and then it kept going for another couple of years.
So in a way, it's almost remarkable that they were like, yeah, we're gonna call this new thing also a Wii. It's just another Wii with a letter at the end of it. And of course, the big innovation on the Wii U is that its primary mode of interacting with it is a tablet controller that has its own screen on it. So this continues the Nintendo two-screen game experience.
But two-screen in a different way from the 3DS. And again, this was another example of like the technology wasn't quite there. And so the Wii U screen is kind of bulky. It's a resistive touchscreen. At a time when everybody was moving to capacitive. It wasn't a good tablet. It was so.
Right.
It's like
the resolution on it is really low, and it also it is like plastic and bulky and feels very much like a toy.
So it's another one of those like, okay, so who is this for? Right? Like it changed multiplayer because only there was one tablet. And again, Nintendo Land showed how that could be fun.
Sure, that this sort of lopsided multiplayer experience where one person gets more information than everybody else.
But no game ever like followed up on this.
None.
And it's kind of Nintendo's job to show why the tablet is a good idea. And I think you can see in the software that they released since then that they didn't really have an answer for that because
frequently the most compelling answer was it's a way to manage your inventory without pausing the game.
Also in Mario Kart, you can push it to be a horn.
That can be your horn. And I do love the horn.
Look, I love the horn too. I'm not a monster.
You could also put the map on there.
Yeah, and all of that is nice, but it was never like a compelling reason to be like, oh, that's why you have this weird controller thing.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like the tablet never realized the one thing that the tablet did do, and this is the thing that the Switch also takes advantage of, is that sometimes it is just fun to sit on the couch and play with a handheld. And then like, oh, okay, the TV's open, I can use the TV now. Like there is something liberating about that.
Yeah, but the experience wasn't as good. Like what the Switch has improved is the screen, by all accounts, is great.
Yeah.
Whereas it was a definite downgrade when you were playing on the Wii U.
Yeah,
tablet.
The resolution on the Wii U tablet is like
it's not HD, it's sub HD.
Oh yeah, I mean it's something like 270 something. It's like it's atrociously bad.
The tablet kind of feels like the 3D and the 3DS to me, where it was like, okay, we did 2 screens, okay, we did motion controls, and now we have to find a way to innovate on this, right? And the next innovation for 3D is the 3DS, and you could get by with that fine because you could turn off the 3D and it's just a more powerful DS with a control knob.
Right.
Versus the Wii U, where it handicapped the system because it made it enormously expensive, like more expensive than it would have had to been otherwise.
If it was just coming out with a Pro controller or something.
It changed multiplayer. It was just like, whereas the 3DS, even if the 3D wasn't a big selling point, it didn't hurt the system.
Right.
And I think the tablet maybe hurt is too big of. Well, I think it did.
Yeah,
in some ways, but I don't think it negatively affected gameplay. Well, it just hurt the system sales wise.
I think the only place where the tablet is like an absolute, it's a necessity, and it makes a game what it is Mario Maker, Super Mario Maker. But like that was hampered by its problems with sharing and like some of the limitations on like how you can. Man, it would have been so great if you could like sequence levels and like make not just an individual Mario level, but like a Mario game or a Mario world or something. But like the tablet interface on that was like the only way to play that game.
Totally. But that's true. But also at the same time, it's available on the 3DS. So it's like it wasn't like a DS or a Wii where it required those platforms. It required a Nintendo platform, but also theoretically you could do this on on any tablet or any phone. You know?
Yeah, I get you.
That being said, I mean, I think it's telling that I'm a huge Nintendo fan, have been for life, and I did not pick up a Wii U.
Yeah, and I mean, for as big of a Nintendo fan as I am, it took me until Mario Kart 8 coming out or was it Smash? I think it was Mario Kart 8. Mark, you were sort of partially instrumental in me getting a Wii U.
We're planting those seeds. I think it was Mario Kart. I feel like it was around Mario Kart. Because Mario Kart came out before Smash, right?
That's right.
Oh, so you definitely had it for Mario Kart. And I think also, even though there are solid, good, great games on the Wii U, I don't feel like I've missed anything by not having one.
You've missed Super Mario 3D World. That game is so good.
And when I have not played through it all the way, but I have played it with you before, and I agree that it's fun, but it's not what I want out of a 3D Mario.
Yeah, you want the exploration based. Yeah.
And that doesn't exist on the
Nope,
Wii U.
it does not.
You know?
Also, it doesn't have its own Zelda game.
Right. It will. It's like the Wii where it will be getting. No, the Wii had two. It's like the GameCube. No, this is the first system that will only have. I guess Super Nintendo had one Zelda.
Yes, Super Nintendo had one Zelda.
But because it's like it's crazy that the Wii U, right? Because the GameCube had two, even though Twilight Princess was bumped to the Wii. The Wii had two,
even though it was sharing one with the previous generation.
And then the Wii U comes out, and Breath of the Wild was announced for it, and it will get a Breath of the Wild at the end.
And it did get remakes of HD remakes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Sure.
Which are to date like the definitive way to play those games. Like Wind Waker is better on Wii U than it was on GameCube, and Twilight Princess is best on Wii U.
I think Twilight or Wind Waker was improved the most, and even just like visually, it looks awesome in HD. I feel like Twilight Princess, even though it's a good port by all accounts, or a good remake, I guess it's more of a port by all accounts. It's less visually appealing, and that's just from what they were working with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I think it looks a little off in HD. But yeah, and like Mario Kart 8 is awesome. Gonna be on the Switch. Splatoon,
great. Gonna be on
the Switch. I don't feel like there's no game on the Wii U that I'm like I can't wait until like there's a virtual Wii U console so I can play this.
Right. Well, and I mean that partially is because they're bringing over most of the things that are worth playing anyway.
I will say it's probably the best version. It's a great version of Smash Brothers.
Yeah. I think probably the best version. Although, man, the portability of the 3DS version, I've put so many hours into.
I mean, we've talked about this. Some people do not like the 3DS version, and I think those people are crazy.
Are monsters. Other just notable games. Pikmin 3.
Yeah, we don't even talk about. I mean, in general, you and I don't talk about like Pikmin that often. Pikmin 4 is rumored to be coming out on the Switch potentially this holiday.
Well, we'll see about that. Xenoblade Chronicles X. We're getting Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch.
Oh, so is this Xenoblade? Wait, was it Xenoblade or is it?
Oh, Mark, I don't know, man. I think they are all Xenoblade Chronicles games.
So the first one, Xenoblade Chronicles,
and then
or was the first one just Xenoblade? This one's Xenoblade Chronicles X or Cross. I don't know. And then the next one will be Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yes.
Oh, I'm confused.
To the best of my understanding, at any rate, I don't know. It's obviously not a series that either you or I follow. So, and therefore didn't play at all. Zombie U, Ubisoft supporting
at launch
a weird zombie game.
Remember that when that was announced and it was some crazy like Zombie Ate My Neighbors but with aliens?
Oh yeah,
game, and then that like I guess they got in development and were like, oh no, never mind, we're doing this. But by all accounts, Zombie U was pretty good.
Yeah, and then eventually gets ported to everything else. Bayonetta 2 was a Nintendo only game. I wonder if we'll ever see Bayonetta again.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That was pretty crazy when Bayonetta 2 was announced.
Yeah,
as a Wii U exclusive, because it was not on the Wii. The first one wasn't on the Wii.
No, and then Bayonetta shows up in Smash Brothers along with Cloud. They were, I don't know. It the end of the Wii U's lifespan, which I guess we're currently in right now. it was such a weird time for just like, I don't know, sure, Cloud's in this game now, or I don't know, Bayonetta, I guess.
Well, it was also when Nintendo started giving third parties a little more, like, not control, but they started incorporating third parties into their development a little bit more.
Sure.
Like Tecmo helping with the development of Smash.
Right.
And Hyrule Warriors becoming a thing, you
Mhm.
know, like that kind of stuff.
And getting like a Mario Brothers content in like the Tekken game or whatever. Like all of that, or Monster Hunter as well. Getting Mario costumes. So, I mean, it all feels a little bit desperate, but you know,
it was their first
They were
HD.
desperate.
It was their first HD console,
Mhm.
and so that kind of seemed to, because what happened at the end of the Wii U's life and through the entire Wii U experience was just a drought of games.
Right.
And what Nintendo was able to do on the Wii was there were third party games, great, but they were able to do a lot of the support themselves, like produce a lot of games themselves for the first like 3 or 4 years of the Wii's life. And then I think when behind the scenes they started transitioning to HD, this was their first time developing an HD, and with the amount of resources that takes compared to earlier development.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier with games sort of drying up on the other platforms in the previous generation.
Yeah.
Nintendo experiences the same thing coming into the Wii U generation.
And they were just a generation behind on all of this. They had to make their own HD engines, like all this stuff.
Yep.
And so the Wii U also just had a dearth of games, and there was no third-party support to help them through that.
And no Metroid game. So that brings us to now, right? Mm-hmm. And the Nintendo Switch, which we know less about than I feel we should a month away from launch.
But that I have a lot of high hopes for.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, that completes our hardware roundup. We've done it. It's only taken us 17 weeks or something.
I titled this one hardware round in our outline, hardware roundup part 3, The Reckoning.
The Reckoning. Well, we've been reckoned. Let's move on out of this segment. We have been going long here, so I think we're just gonna wrap it up. Mark, how's that sound to you? We're good. We're feeling good. We're in a good place.
We're feeling good.
The episode's over. But if you ever want to ask us a question that we would normally discuss during this part when the episode's not over, you can just write into us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter. We're just NinCart Society on Twitter. And the Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. As I mentioned earlier, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes.
And now I hear what you're saying. You are saying, I was going to say probably saying, but I'm hearing you, so I know you are saying. Did you guys mention a contest at some point? And the answer is yes. And I've been holding out for Nintendo NES Classic Edition to become at least mildly available so I could get one. They have not yet, but the contest is not a thing we've forgotten about.
I see.
And I'm not saying it will be an NES Classic Edition, but that's like what I'm aiming for.
Right. So there's still sort of a contest.
Mm-hmm.
The contest is write us a review, rate us on iTunes. Send us an email to let us know that you did that, and then you are automatically entered. Maybe you'll win an NES Classic. Now, there's no time frame on this thing.
More details forthcoming.
How many times do you think we can say that before it's just... Like, how many times can we say details forthcoming?
I don't know. In general? Because I can say it a lot.
Yeah, okay. Let's see how many times you can do it right now. No, never mind. Anyway, that's... yes, contest forthcoming. If you like Mark and mine's opinions on stuff, we write about comics on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo, and our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more of his music on 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now.
What's a
God damn it. Oh, the wheels are coming off the wagon here. By listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, who is braying like a donkey, this is Patrick Ellers saying, we'll do better next time. And thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?